Welcome to Good Evening. This is our very special Listen Live commentary on The Birds. Brandon-Shea Mutala, hit play.
Yes, I will give you guys. I'll give them a countdown here so they know what to do. So when I say 3, 2, 1, play, when I say the word play, you hit play. The timer on my disc, my copy that I've got here is 1 hour, 59 minutes, and 37 seconds. So hit play in 3, 2, 1, play. Caw! Caw!
Please, no. We're gonna.
I was wondering which one of us is going to make the first, silly bird noise.
We're gonna hear enough.
Oh look, on subtitle squawking, cawing.
Mm-hmm.
So, this is our Listen Live commentary on the film The Birds. Thank you. This is a very special edition. We're going out of our typical sequence to do kind of our summer tradition, like we did last year with Psycho, which is
introducing Tippi Hedren. This is her first movie.
Yeah,
I love how it's Tippi, like in quotation marks as well.
Well, that's because her real name is actually Tippasandra Wandry.
This is not
For half a second.
That's much better than Natalie.
No!
This is not true.
I just thought, yeah.
So, I'm just awkwardly waiting here to point out there's a commercial that she did that she was well known for, a product called Seago Liquid Diet Food, which had 10% more protein. I think it was like a powdered food that you put in milk or something, and you dieted by consuming this. So in the first minute of the film, she's walking down the street and a little boy whistles at her. And this is a direct reference to the TV commercial where she's walking down a street and it looks like her son is waiting in the car and he gives her that, hey mama, sort of whistle. And apparently that was complimentary back in the day. And
I think
she
it
took
still
it
is, but I don't think that
positive.
people generally like it anymore.
It's so worth watching on YouTube if you can find the original advert. It's so weird.
And now,
So
she walks
her
by.
actual name, though, is Natalie K. Hedren, and Tippi is a nickname.
Cool.
Now watch this smooth wipe here from location to studio. Awesome!
Mm-hmm.
That is gorgeous.
And then everybody ready for the man himself?
We are.
Get it out of the way. This is when he started to be like, I'll just get it out of the way.
yeah.
There he is. There's the man. Good old Hitchcock. Now, I got to bring it up. So, yeah, pay attention, guys, if you're watching and you never realized there is 0 score for this movie at all. So it's quite the fascinating thing. I will call out as we go through here. There's a couple of things that I really don't like in this movie, but I really do truly love this movie, and I think this might be my, I love Rope, and I've said it a lot, but watching this again on Friday, I'm like, damn, this movie's good. This might be my favorite Hitchcock movie. Like, this movie is awesome.
Oh,
so
wow.
This might have knocked Rope out of the top spot for me, so. But, yeah, it's pretty cool. We studied this in film class, and there's like a couple things that the film professor pointed out to us, but I don't necessarily like them. But they're not until later.
I'd like to hear them anyway, just to see if I agree with him or you.
Yeah, I don't remember what he said. I just remember that I had forgotten that we had studied this in film class, but I watched this around Christmas time with Aubrey, my older daughter, and when I was watching it, I'm like, oh, that's right, we studied this scene like forever when I was in film school in, 2000 or something like that, 1999 or something like that. So,
not this scene, but you'll point it
no,
out.
it's near the end. Yeah, it's near the climax. Okay.
So before we get too far into the show, welcome to Pat McFadden, special guest for today, all the way from California. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
And of course, Chris in jolly old England. Christopher, how are things?
Things are, I mean, it's typical British weather, which has meant that for summer it has done nothing but rain. But apart from that, we're in pretty good spirits as far as lockdown's going. Particularly because yesterday they opened up all of the pubs and restaurants. Woo-hoo. So a decent percentage of the British public has gone out and gone absolutely wasted. And so this is the hangover day.
A very convenient segue to introducing our friend Brandon-Shea Mutala.
Hello. Okay, let me ask you this, guy. So I'm doing great. Does this guy not look kind of like he could be a brother to Robin Williams?
I don't know.
Look at his face. Does he not look like he could be Robin Williams' brother? What's this actor's name? Look at me, just terrible.
Rod Taylor.
Rod Taylor.
I see what you're talking about. Plus, he's got the chest fur and arm fur like Robin Williams too, but not as much. Nobody had as much as Robin.
No, not even Bigfoot. It's this guy's eyes and his nose and his chin. Like he looks like he could be a brother.
Wow.
I guess so. Yeah.
Yeah. Huh.
Do you know that he was the voice of Pongo in 101 Dalmatians?
I didn't. Cool.
No, that's cool.
Because he's not credited. Disney didn't used to credit people for voices.
Oh, really?
Pongo the dog. I love 101 Dalmatians.
It's a great one.
That era of Disney is my favorite era. Like that. What is that? Like the late 60s, early 70s kind of thing?
Yeah, I think that was 61.
Mm-hmm.
I love this scene. Sorry, I know it's like the first proper scene, but you know, it's setting up this relationship, and you get a sense of who they both are. And yeah, there we go. There goes the bird.
I'm just amazed that they have a kind of store like this where it's just like birds all up on the second level. It's like some crazy department store.
I really wish it had been called like Beaks or something with an exclamation mark. Just, where do you work? Beaks! Why? Because everything there has a beak. No.
They used to sell cats, but that didn't go well.
Yeah. They had to change the name to Feathers.
They had inventory issues. So this is
It's
funny
a big
because
meet cute, as they call it.
they're basically meeting each other, and they're flirting with each other, and he's flirting with her, and he gets kind of turned away or turned down and walks out. And suddenly,
But the thing is, well, he knows who she is, and she doesn't know that, so he's got the upper hand for the moment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But
so the whole premise of this film is that she is intrigued by him because he knows who she is, and then she goes on a mission to try and get the upper hand on him.
Yeah.
Partly she's attracted to him.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, like she's intrigued by him and wants to get the upper hand on him and whatnot. So,
Yeah.
so
She
she
horny.
goes to find out who he is.
but she goes quite hardcore stalker pretty quick, running his license plate through her friend at the bureau, which I haven't seen since the last time I watched Rockford Files, and and suddenly she knows where he lives, and everybody's like, I'm telling all the information I know because that's what we do in this era. There's no privacy, there's no suspicion as to why you're stalking people.
I mean, I wasn't expecting the conversation to so quickly get to Melanie Daniels is cancelled, but I'm kind of here for it. She's a stalker, cancelled. No. I think it is interesting because it almost, in a different sort of universe or in a different timeline, this ends up as a romantic comedy.
Right.
Like, oh, they go off and it's all about them kind of having this sparry sort of Benedict and Beatrice relationship. But because it's adapted from Daphne du Maurier, it obviously becomes something much, much darker.
No way, man. In a different dimension, in like an alternate reality, he turned the corner and walked away, and that's somebody else's car. And then we got an entirely different movie.
Fair to say that it does flip from romantic comedy to horror at one point when she's in the boat in the water. I think there's an obvious flip there.
Mm-hmm.
And I would go as far to say that, Evan Hunter said that he started it as if it was screwball comedy.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
But
Yeah,
I
that
have
works.
always found it hard to take it that way because you've come to see the birds, and you know what's going to happen, so you're tense from the first frame.
Right.
Yeah.
You're just waiting.
And I suppose it does a good job because it literally, at first you think, oh, you're walking into this department store full of birds. Is this where it's going to be? And so, yeah, I suppose it does create this sort of, what's the word I'm thinking of? Not inclusive, but this sort of kind of isolating, claustrophobic atmosphere that continues.
Right.
So, as I was watching this movie, I was thinking, like, friend of the show, Mike Schindler, he was on the second episode. Him and Max hosted it for us when we had all our friends on the show. They like to do a double feature, and I have a specific movie in mind on this one, but I want you guys to think about this. If you were to put a double feature of the birds with something else, not necessarily a Hitchcock film, what movie would you put as a double feature with the birds? And
Jaws.
Listeners... Jaws? Okay, yeah, listeners, if
because
you have
I saw it that way once, so I didn't think of it. I actually saw a double feature of that.
Oh, awesome. That'd be a great double feature, too, yeah.
I think I know what mine would be.
Okay, what do you think?
Because I've rewatched it. I would do this and then put Chicken Run on. Because it's one where the birds are the villains and it's the others where they're heroes. And it balances out then.
Snakes on a plane.
Snakes on a plane.
Like
one of the
I have a guilty pleasure. I like that.
Yeah, it's not bad.
It's so bad, but I love it.
You ever been to Bodega Bay, Pat?
What?
You ever been to Bodega Bay? You're close to that, aren't you?
Many times.
Have you? Yeah. Is it a small place?
Yeah. Actually, the movie combined 3 towns: Bodega Bay, Bodega, and Bodega Head.
Okay. Okay, here it is. Sorry, I'll interrupt. This part right here is a part that takes me out of the movie every time, right there. When the birds are leaning, as she's turning so fast, I'm like, you know what? That's just a little too tongue-in-cheek silly for me for the tone of this film. So that is one of 2 things that I don't like in this movie.
That's the comedy.
Oh, no, see, I love it.
The comedy and the romantic comedy.
Yeah.
Those were some of the only mechanical birds that they actually did use.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I always had that problem too, Brandon, come to think of it. I don't anymore, because I see it more... Now that I know it's intentional, they were mechanical, I see it, oh, okay, so it was completely intended that way.
Mm-hmm.
So, if you don't like it, it's because you don't like it, not because it wasn't intended.
Yeah, it's not like I don't like it because it looks cheesy. Like, obviously, it's exactly what Hitchcock wanted. It's just one of those tongue-in-cheek humor things that I think it just doesn't quite fit in the film for me, because there's nothing else like it in the film. It's just this one.
It occurred to me, maybe he wanted to play with the audience a little bit. Like, oh, we're gonna have phony birds in this movie. See how tacky they are, and then surprise us later with the really good effects.
Mm-hmm. Oh, could be.
Okay, you were talking about Bodega Bay, and Pat mentioned there's other communities around there, like Bodega Head. So apparently Mitch Zanuck is the real guy who was the owner of the Tides restaurant, and he made a deal with the locations crew, saying that if you call it Bodega Bay, you can basically use my restaurant as a location for free. And the other deal that he struck was to have the hero called Mitch, which is Mitch, the restaurant owner's real name. And I think Mitch, the restaurant owner, actually has a bit part where he greets them when they come off the boat later. And the line is, "What happened, Mitch?" But we won't see that line for a bit yet. But so that was very clever of this
Mitch
restaurant owner.
A gull hitter. The guy says, "A gull!"
But that's
Which
very
shows
clever.
That he's not an actor and that he's making a cameo from a restaurant.
The restaurant owner is very clever because I'm sure they've made thousands of dollars in tourism since then for being associated with the film, right?
Yeah. I love this character, this store owner here. This guy's great. Tom, did you have an idea for a doubleheader?
I was thinking Snakes on a Plane.
Oh yeah, Snakes on a Plane. So So I was thinking as I'm watching this, because I love the movie, I would think that Shyamalan's The Happening would be a great doubleheader with this. Because you get that weird, mysterious, what happened, you don't really know why it happened, why did the birds strike out, why did nature strike out, so I think that'd be a good doubleheader. Listeners, if you have a good idea for a doubleheader, let us know. Tweet us.
Both that and Jaws, and I haven't seen Snakes on a Plane, but both that and Jaws don't explain why the attacking animals are attacking.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the reasons Hitch didn't do that was because once you explain, then it becomes science fiction.
Mm.
Oh. Yeah, this store owner's a charming, again, super helpful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
No
Strangely,
concern about
he sounds
privacy.
like he's out of Murder, She Wrote. He's got this New England kind of accent that no one around there seems to have.
Very helpful people. But this is so believable, like this dialogue, like, you know, how many times have you gone in a store and heard people talk like this, you know, like locals talking to each other, and I don't know, like this is really believable dialogue. I really love this stuff here.
Yeah. How do you get there? You go to the Johnson farm and turn right.
Alice, Lois.
Yeah, there's an invisible character working in the back of the store.
I just assumed it was a customer.
I think it's like a co-worker, or maybe it's a customer.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it's a customer looking under her dress.
Possibly.
Or one of those
so
customers.
That is Bodega, the town of
Okay.
Bodega. It's about 6 miles away from Bodega Bay. That building is still there.
It's
I
a
go
house
to visit
now?
it often.
It's a private house?
Well, whenever I go up there for other reasons.
Does it still look near this, or is it pretty different now?
It looks a lot like it. There's no more Tides restaurant. There is a Tides Inn, which is huge. It's a restaurant and a hotel, and it's on the same spot. But the restaurant that we see in the film burnt down in the late 60s.
Okay.
And the gas station was never actually there in the town. It was combined.
So every time I watch this, I think that these two characters are very interesting because they're like complete opposites of each other, with the light hair, the dark hair, you know, and they're both have an interest in Mitch, you know, but they're kind of opposites, but yet they're similar enough that they can be friends,
it's an interesting relationship, because you do see the minute that they sort of bring Mitch up, you know, it's implied that Annie has this kind of past relationship. She might have been Mitch's sort of ex-girlfriend for a time, that sort of thing. And they get this, it's like they're friends, but equally there's a little spikiness under it, or there's, you know, that sort of thing. And I think it's interesting you're saying, oh, well, visually they're quite different, because, you know, a big shout out, she's dead, but, you know, we'll still give her a shout out to Edith Head, who, you know, obviously designed a lot of Hitch's costumes over the years. And I think it's interesting that she sort of frames Melanie as this sort of sleek, blonde, elegant, sort of Grace Kelly-esque metropolitan girl, and then you have Annie, who's in much more kind of vigorous, you know, she's very much more down to earth, and it's quite solid colours, and it's all quite practical. So it shows the difference, but I like that it never really descends into a love triangle, because I don't think the film needs it. One thing I will say that I'm really enjoying is that this little sequence is setting up a lot of the major points that come in the second half of the film. So we've seen the school. Obviously, there's a big set piece that happens at the school. There's a big moment at Annie's, which we won't spoil if you haven't seen the film. And this is your first time watching it, although why you'd be listening to a commentary while watching a film for the first time, I have no idea. And then obviously it then goes over to the Brenner household, which is where a big part of the last section of the film is. So I just enjoy this sequence.
Here's a killer shot.
You're like, no, not you. Oh, that is glorious. And that's what I mean, like the colour matches up, so it's this sort of red becomes associated with Annie, which is a little hint. Mm-hmm.
Little hint.
I love her costume, the green underneath, like the green shirt, the green dress, the green coat.
Yeah, and she's literally opposite to Annie then on the colour wheel.
Yeah.
I'm glad you love it, because we're going to see a lot of it.
Mm-hmm.
In high school, one of my friends theorized that the birds were attacking because they wanted her to change her damn outfit.
That's possible. I mean, they didn't start attacking until she got there. It's the dress.
She's considered a practical joker, right? So this whole stunt where she spontaneously drives to another town and buys the birds and tracks this man's house down and shows up like a seal marine out of the water, and delivers, walks into an unlocked door of a house and drops off this bird cage with a letter. Like, the whole thing is very,
Lovebird.
yeah, very malicious. But it's considered to be like she's a rich girl, practical joker out for a lark, pardon the pun. But also she's in love with the guy, right?
Yeah, I think she's intrigued by him because, I mean, obviously we don't see much of her backstory prior to meeting him, but either in my head, she's quite used to a lot of society types, and he's the first guy that's ever made her go, well, no, you should be held accountable for your actions, and that is awful, and has pushed back against her, and she finds that attractive.
Mm-hmm. I do want to ask you guys a question about this here. So, how old do you think these characters are? Because in movies of this day and age, like, a lot of the film stars were a little bit older. Like, if you look at The Blob with Steve McQueen, like, Steve McQueen was in his mid-30s or something when he did that, and he was supposed to be like a 17-year-old, right? And watching this movie, I look at Mitch and I think the guy's like 38 or something like that, and Tippi Hedren's, I think, in her early 30s or something like this. But based on some of the stuff they're talking about, with her having, like, fallen in, I think it was in Paris, where she fell, quote unquote, possibly naked into that fountain or whatnot. Like, I get the impression that this was something that she did in her college just recently. So she's supposed to be, like, in her early 20s. And he's maybe supposed to be like 28 or 26 or something like that. What do you guys think their ages are supposed to be?
His sister is 12 or 14 or something. So
yeah.
Like, having him being 25, 26 would still be kind of a weird gap, but it would be practical,
Mm-hmm.
The script says she's in her mid-20s.
In the script?
Yeah.
I wonder how old Tippi Hedren was when she made this. I'm going to take a look and see. What year did this come out, Pat?
63, but they were shooting it in 62.
Okay, so she was born in 30, so she would have been 32 when this was being filmed.
So late 20s is a good sort of average.
Yeah.
And the script calls him as being 29 or 30.
Yeah, but he looks a bit older than that, so...
Yeah. And
lock your doors, people. Always lock your doors.
Yeah. I mean, he's a handsome guy, but if you'd have said, oh, he's in his late 20s, I'd have been like, no. No, we're talking like early to mid 30s.
Yeah. What's his name? Rob?
Rod, like Rodney.
Rod Taylor. What? Rod Taylor. Let me look him up too. Let's see how old he was. So he would have been the exact same age as her. He's... Oh, wow. His birthday is January 11th, 1930, and her birthday is January 19th, I think it was, 1930? Yeah, so he's 8 days older than her.
They remain lifelong friends.
Mm-hmm. Oh, did they? That's
nice.
Tippi Hedren's still alive.
He's gone. She's alive.
Yeah.
Going back a bit, the guy who helped her into the boat, looking at her in such a puzzled way, that's Doodles Weaver. He was a singer in the Spike Jones band.
Right.
And also uncle of Sigourney Weaver.
Wow.
Which is ironic.
And Sigourney Weaver, her mother was in the 39 Steps, so they're all over Hitchcock.
Well, and then we have the Veronica Cartwright connection as well.
Mm-hmm.
Because she obviously plays Kathy.
My dad played a lot of Spike Jones albums growing up. when, as kids, we listened to that all the time. And I knew the name Doodles Weaver, but thank you for connecting that. And I read a bit of his bio today. He's very popular in films and TV shows, and he was a very well-known comedian in his day.
Yeah.
And I loved when he directed Being John Malkovich. Oh, that's a different Spike Jonze.
I love this.
Yeah.
With the binoculars.
Yeah. Doesn't he look like Robin Williams? Oh my goodness.
Now that you say it.
Yeah. I can't unsee it. I'm
So
like, it's Robin Williams in Chris Evans' Knives Out sweater.
Does the fur coat driving a motorboat thing bother people, or is that cool?
I like to think it's one of those things where, like, she's that rich and she's like, well, of course I'm going to wear a fur coat. Well, I'll get cold.
I think she was raised by, a society rich businessman, and her rebellious nature causes her to just, oh yeah, I can ride a boat. I can wear a fur coat while I'm running a boat. Sure.
Wear a coat in a boat.
Now she doesn't realize, this is me thinking, she doesn't realize she's in love with him yet. It's all been about getting the upper hand back. Because she does this to other people.
Oh my goodness! That bird just came out of nowhere.
Turning point. It's now a horror film. What happened?
Sorry, we interrupted you, Pat.
No, I'm sorry. I was talking over that perfect moment.
So up until now, basically, the whole movie's been from her point of view, and you get that shot of the bird attacking her.
Yeah,
but it's
actually,
basically been stuff that
she
sees
through the binoculars. Switches us briefly to his.
Mm-hmm.
And here's the cameo guy.
A gull.
A gull.
What happened, Mitch? Well, Mitch, let me tell you. Be right back. I'm going to your restaurant to fix her up.
I had a booster before I went abroad last May.
See that little subtle hint of the Welsh was like, oh, it's when I had a shot before I went abroad. And I suppose in the early 60s, like, a lot of people still weren't travelling, because I think the 60s was like the advent of kind of cheaper flights and everything. But she still says it so casually. She's like, oh, well, I went abroad, and that sort of thing.
Abroad.
Yeah, where's abroad? Oh, we travel.
So, the actress on the right is Elizabeth Wilson, famous in 9 to 5, and The Graduate as Ben's mother.
Okay.
Right on.
9 to 5 with Dolly Parton?
Yeah. She played the unlikable office mate. I don't remember too well the movie.
I saw it once, and it would have been 30 years ago that I saw it.
When Brandon was 1 year old.
When I was 1 year old, I saw it.
Now, there's better shots of it later, but I get such a kick out of all the liquor behind the counter in this restaurant.
I know. I noticed that too. I'm like, holy smokes, that place is loaded.
And I know they have a sign that refers to package sales, which in my Canadian lingo I would call off sale. So they do. They're a tourism restaurant and they sell liquor out the door, but they've got 500 bottles on that wall. That's ridiculous. That's poor inventory. That's not safe.
And that's just for the drunk at the end of the counter later.
Yeah.
And I swore there was a Canadian Club whiskey promotion tied into this film, because they seem to have 40 or 50 bottles of Canadian Club sitting there. But
there's a lot of booze on that counter.
It's a tourism town.
I love his fisherman's sweater.
It's very Chris Evans in Knives Out. I know it's a reference. I'm sticking with it. It's a very nice sweater.
Because he was, his property is a bit of a farm. They live on. Or
Yeah.
acreage.
Yeah.
He was out working in
Not
the
a
barn.
huge farm. Just we have free eggs and free chicken dinner farm.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the swan pose with her hand. Like, nobody does that.
Yeah.
If you've got a booger, a bump on your forehead, you're doing a flat hand. Oh my! I'm hurting my head. But this
birds.
This is like a pirouette of the elbow or something goofy.
Well, she does a few bird-like things.
Okay, so let me ask you a question going back to the beginning of the film. So the first time when she looks out and she sees those birds in San Francisco, do you think that was just an establishing thing, or do you think that upon repeated viewings, we're supposed to think that that's an initial instance of the birds acting weird? Because later on in the movie, we find out it's pretty limited to the Bodega Bay area.
I would lean into it being sort of a motif. They were establishing it, and because it's a movie called The Birds, and it's going to be a horror movie about birds who attack, setting them up from the beginning, I think establishes mood in quite a useful thing. Tiny little sidebar: when there's an establishing shot of the three of them, there's a sign behind the bar. I can't read what it says, but I swear it says something like "No crooks."
Oh, let's see if we can see it again.
No checks.
Yeah.
We take no checks.
Is it no checks?
Yeah.
Oh,
or no
sucks.
credit.
I was there like, oh, it's some kind of deep subliminal thing, and they're like, no, it's just a sign. It's nothing.
Jessica Tandy's fantastic in this movie.
She is.
I know her from I loved Fried Green Tomatoes when I was a teenager. I watched it all the time.
The movie or the food dish?
The movie.
Fried green
Tawanda!
I feel really bad. You've mentioned 3 films. I've seen none of them.
Oh, shame on you, Chris.
I know.
Have you seen The Birds, at least?
Yeah.
Well,
wait, is that what this is?
Well, I haven't seen Knives Out yet, so no spoiling that anymore.
No, I'm not. I didn't. Okay, that is a different conversation. I didn't spoil it. It's still the best film I saw last year, so watch it. Anyone can watch it. Anyone can enjoy it. Anyway, back to the Birds.
Pat, you're the local down there. Does it sound right that this is a facade they built that they're working on this house? Like it doesn't exist?
Yeah, there was no Annie's house.
There's no house in the neighborhood. It was just a facade that they put
built
up for the
facade,
film.
stuck it there, and took it away later.
Well, all right. Got your bags in the car?
A brown
One
bag.
time.
Jessica. Sorry.
What's in the
Go
brown
on,
bag,
Chris.
lady?
Nothing. I was just gonna say, just in that shot there, where she's leaning against the the door jamb, she's got such a look of like Elizabeth Taylor, Natalie Wood. Just
Notice how she's all cleaned and dressed and pretty now, as opposed to messy and dirty
Covered in
and
blood.
casual before.
Oh, you mean
As if she's
Suzanne?
gearing up for battle
yeah.
for Mitch. And she, the actress, Plachette, used to say, the blonde gets the fur coat when she first comes in, and I get the old clothes and the soil on my face.
She's a working
She once
girl.
came in with a blonde wig just to tease Hitchcock.
That's funny. Okay, guys, what time do you guys eat supper? Dinner?
6 or 7.
Is it
Yeah,
really that
ish.
late,
Yeah.
Pat?
Why, you ask?
Oh, we eat at 5 o'clock. We have our supper. And you always see in movies that people eat at 7, and I'm like, geez, I'm going to bed at 8. That's late.
I have nights I go to work at 8 p.m.
Wow, you work night shift, so that's a little different. Okay, Veronica Cartwright from Alien. What was her character's name in Alien?
Lambert.
Lambert. The one who's screaming. She's also in a Twilight Zone episode that I know, I Sing the Body Electric.
And also in the 1978 remake of Invasion of the Body Snatchers.
Yep. And some X-Files episodes. She showed up in The Red and the Black and Patient X.
But she got in this because Hitchcock had seen her in The Children's Hour.
Okay.
Oh, that's the Audrey Hepburn, Shirley MacLaine, lesbian school teacher movie?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. She was the nice kid, but the kleptomaniac, so she was blackmailed by the bitchy kid.
I love this scene.
Yeah.
This scene here where there's two conversations going on. We don't hear what's going on the phone, but we're getting the information, and the camera's just in one place the whole time. I think this is just a marvelous scene, you know?
So they're talking about, what, the chickens are being fed?
Yeah.
Rod Taylor has a great story he tells later in life. All the seagulls, they fed them whiskey and wheat, of course. It's illegal now. The only reason they were all sitting around is that they were all half pissed. They also would put raw meat into the lens of the camera so that the ravens would swoop into the lens. And he says, I was pooped on by every seagull in Northern California. That's his recollection of the training of the animals, all the live birds. So they're drunk seagulls working on this film. And apparently they had they would have had supervision from the ASPCA or whatever, and they would have had a bird hospital, like an aviary set up where they could take care of the birds that were injured. And the whole bird actor thing, like using the real birds, was a huge part of the production, to the point that like Hitchcock originally would have gone with mechanical birds, but they realized that it just didn't look right. So the only way to do it would have been using live birds or real birds and a combination of cutouts and dummies. But typically there were a lot of live birds used and a lot of special effects done after initial filming. A lot of scenes where they were reacting in a room which was empty, and then the birds were layered in later. So for the era, for the time, it was pretty elaborate animation that they were doing, post-production.
Mm-hmm. Now, this film's also kind of interesting for Hitchcock. Like, this is his third adaptation of a Daphne du Maurier story. He seemed to really like her work. Kept going back to it. So he also did Rebecca and Jamaica Inn.
Right.
That's right.
I haven't read this story.
Read her original story, for the first time just the other day.
How is it?
It's real good.
Is it better than the movie? You can say yes.
People just stop listening and go, well, this is bull.
No, now that I've read it, it's better than I thought it would be, and it's kind of a miniature version of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
They always said that he just kept the title and threw everything else out and just concentrated on birds attacking people. But there is more similarity in the two pieces.
Okay. How long is it? Do you know how many pages about?
Oh, it's nothing. It's a novella. I listened to it via audio, and it was like half an hour.
Okay.
It's a 30-page short story, and it's set in Britain, and it was a much different storyline, but similar people being trapped by marauding flocks of birds and stuff. I didn't read it. That was some stuff I learned. But there's also kind of a coincidental true life incident from 1961 where thousands of migrating birds basically ate anchovies, which made them sick. And they came to shore, and it was during a thick fog, and this was, I believe, California, Capitola, and literally they were smashing and crashing into the ground, into the buildings. People came out of their homes with flashlights, having birds attacking them directly. One woman opened the door, and 6 birds wanted to come in her house. There were dead birds laying all over the road in the morning, to the point that the civic workers had to go out with trucks and shovels and clean them up. And they basically realized later that the birds had eaten some bad anchovies, kind of like a flashback to the movie Airplane. Don't eat the fish. But
How did they open the cans with those feathers of theirs?
So, truckloads of dead birds were hauled away, and as Hitchcock, as it timed out, this kind of happened when this film of the birds was already in production. So it could have been originally like an origin story, but it really wasn't an origin for the film. But as Hitchcock said, it's too bad this real-life incident didn't happen right after the release of the film, because it would have really helped ticket sales.
That's funny. Like with COVID-19, everybody watching Contagion.
Right.
Well, in the book, it's a farmer with his wife and kids. And he figures out what's happening before his neighbors do. They're all like the COVID denying people now. They're all saying, "Oh yeah, we hear on the radio that birds are attacking, so we're gonna go out with guns tonight and drink beer and have a lot of fun." Meanwhile,
and the first person to get attacked by a bird wins the lottery.
Right. The next morning, after he has battened down the hatches with nailing boards to the windows and everything that they do in the movie, he goes back out and everyone else is dead. Which they almost did in this film, but didn't.
Right.
But it, like the movie, ends ambiguously. You think, well, if they're still attacking and he's done everything he can do and you're starting to see the beaks coming through the door, then he's really going to die. So the story just ends.
Look at all those birds. Like a bird on a wire.
There was a funny newsreel that I found, which is Hitchcock presenting to the journalist, all the film writers in New York City. When he went to New York to premiere the film, they had a reception for him. And true to the day, it was 500 men in a room. Like, there wasn't a single journalist female in the entire room. But one of the jokes that Hitchcock made from the podium is that my new movie is just coming out called The Birds. We originally had a 3-word title, and we're going to add the word for. So, would have been For the Birds, which is very funny, critical sort of humor of Hitchcock's. I thought that was a clever joke of his.
Yeah.
What are the box office numbers on this film?
Oh, let me take a look. Let me see what I can find out for you here.
It was quite successful, I remember hearing.
That sounds like a very, very accurate joke of Hitchcock's. Very, very appropriate for him. So the budget was $3.3 million, and box office at the time was $11.4 million. Released March 28th, 1963.
Wow. Very, very successful film.
Mm-hmm. And definitely go check out the trailer if you haven't seen it. This is the time when Hitchcock was getting very creative with his trailers, and sometimes his trailers are better than the movies.
And we're in an era now, as we produce our podcast, which we spent so many episodes doing films from the 30s and the 40s. We're lucky now that this film was in a fairly modern era where there is supporting television productions, there's supporting trailers, there's supporting media that we can wrap around the film. Where back in the day we were covering silent films that there might have been a newspaper article if we were lucky. So we're really in an era now where there's a lot of rich extra content for the fans that want to explore the movie deeper, to go back and see the trailers, see the popular television shows, the modern day coverage of the film outside of the film itself, right?
Mm-hmm.
I really love this scene. Sorry, I was I was listening, but I was also just kind of, because this exchange between Melanie and Annie is quite, it's interesting, and it really just played with the parallels between them, because, Melanie's saying, well, how did you come to be here? Because, Annie was originally from San Francisco, and both women kind of came to the town because of Mitch, and it almost seems like Melanie's going to stay because he unwittingly sort of has her in his thrall. And then it's interesting at the end of the film kind of how that one of them's able to break the cycle and leave the town, and one of them isn't. And I just think it's just a really well acted scene, and it reminds me almost of, and it's a very different context, but it almost reminds me of the scene where it's Norman and Marion. That's I forgot. I nearly said Vera, and I'm like, nope, that is not only the wrong character, it's the wrong actress. In Psycho, this great kind of 1-2 exchange about pasts and all that sort of thing.
Well, the reason why one of them couldn't leave the town is because she got killed by birds.
Yeah, I know, but I'm trying not to spoil anything in case someone has foolishly decided, I tell you what, I'm gonna watch this film, or I'm gonna listen to the commentary without having seen the film first. So I'm trying to be coy.
It's Annie.
I'm the only
Annie
one
dies.
who does commentaries before watching the movie. But you're quite right, Chris. I mean, that's a really good observation. And to add to it, and I just noticed this, they're also talking about someone's mother.
Mitch's mom. See, look at this is terrible. Now I feel bad because we got our guest here, Pat. I'm sitting here mocking my co-host, and Pat's congratulating him on good observations.
I love that you were like, oh, I'm just mocking him. I'm like, listen, if that's the Canadian version of mocking, it's no wonder you guys have such a nice reputation.
Yes.
It wasn't even gentle ribbing. You were there like, oh, well, maybe they have seen it, maybe they haven't, and I'm just like, oh, maybe they have. I don't know.
Pat, thank you for coming back on our show, which I can't understand why you would. We
if
mentioned
I could see Chris's image right now, I'd be joining in.
I mean, okay, I'm going to say for full disclosure, somehow my camera has worked on every Teams meeting I've needed to do while working from home, and yet somehow on Zoom it's decided that it doesn't want, I don't know, the Chinese to steal my image or something. I don't know. It's not working. It worked 2 weeks ago when I had the Bon Appetit test kitchen as my background, and now it's just not working. So I don't know. Please be assured though, I'm really annoyed because I actually put on a clean shirt and look quite good. Because there's been times when I've just stuck an old t-shirt on and look a bit scraggy.
So you put a clean shirt on? Jeez, I didn't even put on pants.
Too much information. Pat, I'm trying to stay on track and thank Pat for being on our Psycho episode last summer. Listen live.
That was fun. Thank you.
And Brandon mentioned the other day, apparently it's had 500 downloads, which is pretty good for one of our shows.
Really?
Mm-hmm. That's our top downloaded episode on our own independent feed. So people seem to like the Psycho commentary. And you know what? The good news is my computer's not screwing up this time. So we should have a nice thing, and we shouldn't have Tom being Brandon? Where's Brandon?
You've jinxed it now. You've jinxed it. It's going to get to the scene at the school, and they're going to be singing that god-awful song.
What? That awesome song. That is perfect.
Yes.
It's honestly awful. Don't get me wrong.
And when she shrugs, look at her shrug here. It comes with the sound of the gull banging into the door. And as a kid, I always laughed because it was as if her shrug made that noise. Look.
She shrugs and kills a bird.
Exactly.
And then we get that line.
I wonder how much of that is painting. Because they did use a lot of painting, and there's that great aerial shot when the birds sort of descend on the town. That is part of it's painting, part of it's photograph, all that sort of thing.
Yeah, well, in what I was reading, something said that Albert Whitlock did 12 matte paintings for the film. But
wow.
I haven't found a list of what they actually are. Some of them are obvious, and some aren't.
Now, Tom and I are from Saskatchewan, so he might not understand this. Where did all the water go, Tom? There's a tide.
Yeah.
Here we are on a set now.
The soap that they use in their washing machine?
Horrible set in the movie.
The tide in the tide out.
It's a set.
Oh.
It was kind of an afterthought because they wanted to make her a little more sympathetic than she had been up to now. And also set up the fact that she was abandoned by her mother. which is answered later by her relationship with his mother.
Yeah, it's a bit of a parallel, and it's also, we've discussed this many times on the show, the kind of the mum issues that Hitchcock seems to have that he doesn't seem to have with father figures.
Yeah.
But no, it was at the start of the conversation. There's a really funny line where he's there filling a glass up, and she's like, "Oh no, I shouldn't. Oh no, I've had too much already. I'm driving," which I love because in modern day kind of nomenclature, it's kind of like, "Oh no, you are just the designated driver. You are not going." She's like, "I've had 3 glasses. That's enough." I just remember just how much people used to like drink and then go, "Do you know what? I'm fine," and that's why, like.
Well, we get that guy later on. He's like, "You gonna follow me here? Let me just take another shot here." In the cafe later on.
Yeah, when it's like the mum and the kids, and they're like, yeah, hang on, 1 foot road, and then walks off, and then, yeah.
As long as the bottle's not actually in the car, they're okay.
Like my shirt?
Oh, nice.
I can't
got a bird shirt.
Oh, there we go, yeah, okay.
For those listening,
you're
it's a shirt with the Birds movie poster on it.
Nice. I don't even remember the first time I saw it. It might have been when we studied it in film class, which was 99, so it would have been 18, right? It was fall of 99. I think that's when I actually saw this movie for the first time.
I've seen it 5 or 6 times. I probably would have seen it on TV a long time ago. One of my Hitchcock film festivals at my house, about 7 years ago, we presented the film. And there was a time living in Regina, so about 8 years ago, that downtown in Regina at the campus, the University of Regina Extension Division, they had a Friday afternoon classic film class for 4 weeks, and I went from work and attended that, and they showed the Birds during that class.
Yeah, there's a professor at our university who just loves Hitchcock, and he's always teaching about Hitchcock. I don't remember his name, though.
Are you thinking of Gord Pepper?
That's it.
Yeah. Well, Gord's the one that did the presentation at the public library that Shadow of a Doubt was one of the films. A couple of years ago, and he's the general manager of the Saskatchewan Film Pool.
I love this shot too, the way she doesn't take her eyes off of them. Oh, I just love that.
Yeah, and then
the mum too.
Yep.
Oh, I just love
great.
that.
And it's as if their inner tensions with each other are at a boiling point, and the first mass attack happens.
Yeah.
Birthday party gone bad.
God, kill him. No.
It's really cleverly edited because you don't notice that you're seeing the same kids run into the house about 4 times.
But also, like, this is a scene where normally it would be amplified with music, and there's no score in this movie. This is normally a scene where you'd have the music really swelling to amplify the terror.
Yeah, I mean, if they ever do remake it, there's going to be, like, a Brian Tyler score all over it, like we're watching something from 300. It's going to be so dramatic. It's going to be like...
Well, technically... Technically, there is a score with the electronic music. The electronic sounds. But those sounds were composed as though it was a score.
Ah.
What electronic sounds?
The bird noises?
Well, we can't hear it ourselves right now, but there's electronic bird noise and cacophony all through it.
Oh.
Apparently a lot of the scenes where like the little girl was running and there's a bird attacking her neck, all they did was they tied the bird to her neck and then let her run. And then, it looks like the bird is attached onto her, but she's just dragging the bird along with her. It's all clever editing. Are they serving chicken?
No. Leftover roast beef.
It's great that they bring back the lovebirds, that it's not just the outdoor birds, it's all birds, There's something going on with all the birds.
Right.
We have an extra room upstairs and everything.
I think this is brilliant, this scene.
Yeah.
If I go across to Santa Rosa, I'll come
It's like a stage play, because it's so self-contained.
Just listen to those lovebirds.
Chirping,
Just listen to those lovebirds.
chirping, chirping, chirping.
Mitch. Oh, that's so good.
That is the letters from the first Harry Potter film. It's just...
See, and this here is like the opposite of the Goonies, when all those bats come out of the Fratelli's basement, right?
Yeah.
And Chunk's like, "Run, Mikey, run!"
Yeah. I mean, the most impressive thing is that there's no actual birds there. They're all just reacting to nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so... because it's brilliantly acted, but yeah, it's all just like a sort of... I suppose the equivalent of today would be like a green screen almost, or like a digitally done, but yeah, it's just all an overlay, so, you've got...
Well, there were some, actually.
What was that? I thought there weren't any.
Well, this is the scene that, when you read the historical interviews, they talk about, they brought all these birds into the room and the birds just sat around and did nothing. So the actors had to do the faking of the birds, but I think what Pat is getting at is there's probably some live birds on camera in the room right now, but there's hundreds of birds that we see all over the room. Those are special effects added later.
See, and when all those birds were just sitting on the ground, that's when we got that wonderful quote from Hitchcock saying, "Bird actors are cattle."
They wanted...
They
had too
built
much whiskey.
like a plexiglass enclosure on the set so that the birds that were used wouldn't fly away.
Right.
Now, he is the same guy who was in North by Northwest, who was out on the cornfields catching the bus.
Oh, yeah. The cop here?
This scene is brilliant. I'm sorry,
Yeah.
I keep going on. But
Following the mum.
yeah, in the script, the mother is sitting down for the entire scene and crying at times. But Hitch created on the set this dichotomy of, once again in Hitchcock, the dialogue having nothing to do with what you're seeing. Both are important, but look at her looking at the mother, who is, this girl has just come in, who's going to take her son away, and and now she's lost all control. And then when she goes to write the picture of her beloved dead husband, a bird, well, it's about to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Quite a mess here, I'll admit that. Maybe you ought to put some screen on top of your chimney. You want some help cleaning up?
No, I can, but it shouldn't be too much of a job.
Perfect. Perfection.
I'll take Kathy up to the...
So good.
I think I should stay, don't you?
It would be nice if you could.
Did this, how would you put this in your favorites, Pat? Is this pretty high up for a favorite Hitchcock film?
It's very high up. There was, a couple of years ago, I was deciding that it was my favorite film.
Ever.
But it's too difficult to pick one, and eventually it settled on Psycho.
See, they don't tell you what's going on, but he's burning all the bird corpses, right? On the
Right.
beach there?
Was that...
That's true.
So
And
Hitchcock...
you know about the scene that was cut here?
No.
No.
Well, she goes out and she talks to Mitch, and basically that's when they realize they're in love. they're joking about why the birds are doing it, and they're kind of having fun with, that. But then she gets really scared. She said, but they were serious last night. They wanted to kill us. And
was that filmed?
It was filmed.
Okay, I haven't seen that.
It's not. I guess it doesn't exist now because the DVD and Blu-ray, they cover the scene, but only with script pages. They don't actually have footage.
The DVD that I watched,
this whole sequence is amazing.
Has that in it?
Yeah, this is one of the better. So yeah, we studied this as like this is one of the first instances of like jump cut editing, and it's very, very effective. So I remember watching this with Aubrey and gave her quite the jump.
Dan?
That shot right there, like just,
Whoa. All the broken cups.
Yeah, you know what happened.
Dan?
And it's that great sort of mounting tension.
Mm-hmm.
Because you never see it before, and it's just, The reveal is great.
Mm-hmm. It's amazing.
Mm. Because for what is ostensibly a horror film, there's only a couple of bits of sort of out and out horror.
Mm-hmm. Look at that bird in the window. Oh my goodness!
Here we go.
Dead on the bed.
When I first used to see this on local TV, they would cut here to her running out.
Yeah.
So I didn't see this until I saw it in the theater, and it freaked me out.
She dropped her purse.
The script has her screaming, but when filming, Hitch had her just do this. She can't scream. She's trying to.
Mm.
And that's why when she drives back, when she drove there, they wet down the road. But when she drives back, it's dry, and the dust is coming up after her.
Mm.
To symbolize her panic and
speed.
She should call that guy back and be like, "It definitely wasn't your feed."
So we've solved one problem. It's not the feed.
What is it, dear? What's the matter?
Mother.
Oh God, Mother.
Mother.
I love how she just looks at both and then just hits him, and he's just like, "Well, I'm sorry. I know you've just had a traumatic experience, but still."
So, since they cut
in
that
my
scene,
opinion, I just want to add this. Yeah, you have the deleted scene of the romance. In my point of view, when the mother went away, they've had sex. Like, so that's why they're all like touchy-feely here now, right? Because she was in her pajamas earlier and whatnot, and so like Mom went away to take the girl into town, and they've been getting closer.
Yeah,
that's my impression.
She drove away, and then he just had her.
Yes.
And here comes another beautifully done scene just between two females.
Mm-hmm. Hitchcock's always done a great job with women characters.
Yeah. And I don't care what people say, for her to go from never having done a film to this is astonishing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because she's really good.
What was it, 75 days of production they did? And she basically credited Hitch and Alma as being her drama coaches. They would have her over to the house and coach her and train her, and they really nurtured her as a like you said, a brand new actress that had only done TV commercials.
Do you think Kath is all right at the school? Yes, I'm sure she's fine.
Now, Tom, you'd messaged something that I hadn't heard about, but you said she did like some kind of lion thing?
Yeah, later in life, there's a film called Roar, and I don't have all the details, but basically I think they lived in South Africa, and they had lions living in their house. They had like a lion refuge.
Tippi Hedren.
Yeah. and her husband, and they, Melanie Griffith, of course, being her daughter, they filmed a documentary, and they would just have lions around, like, without protection. And apparently at one point, her husband was scalped to the point that he needed, like, all these stitches. And Melanie Griffith, as a young child, had multiple stitches, like, damage to her face. And Hedren was like a lion's rights or tiger activist, and had this refuge that she ran. And eventually, at one point, she said, "Okay, from now on, no more interaction with the animals. We're going to keep them behind caged walls and stuff." But it was a very bizarre kind of post-career or later in her career activity for someone who complained so much about being abused on the set as an actress and having to spend a week for the final scene with all these birds and having a nervous breakdown, to going later in life and filming a documentary where people were getting mauled by lions.
Yeah.
It's kind of contradictory. You'd think that she would go away from animals if the experience from the birds was so negative, you know?
Yeah. I mean, three things. First of all, well, I completely agree. Secondly, Tippi Hedren walked so Carol Baskin could run. And the scene we're watching between them is great, and I think it has great female dynamics and everything. But when you were talking about kind of the history of Tippi Hedren and Melanie Griffith, there's an interview, one of those, you know, where they go around celebrities' homes and everything. So I think it's Architectural Digest did it with Tippi Hedren's granddaughter, who is Dakota Johnson, who people might know from the 50 Shades of Grey movies and from Bad Times at the El Royale and all kinds of stuff. And they actually talk a bit about what it was like growing up and kind of seeing some of the stuff that went on there. So if you're interested, there's a really good interview. It came out a couple of months ago. It is well worth a look. And yeah, I suppose it is quite weird that she would kind of complain so much about, oh, well, you know, she had to do this with the tigers and the lions and all that sort of thing, and then would go on to have it be such a part of her life.
Yeah. No, that's yeah, if you asked me to get involved in a film production with live tigers, I'd be like, yeah, no, I'm busy that month.
I'd do it, but I'd be like, okay, I'm just going to be like nowhere near them though. Like I can be like, you're cute, and then walk away. Because I haven't watched Tiger King. I don't think I'll ever really get through Tiger King. But I have seen some of the crazy bleep that went down on Tiger King. And I'm like, oh, okay. Like, legs have gone, arms have gone. People
I still haven't watched that yet either.
I did not watch Tiger King.
It was all the rage at the beginning of coronavirus.
Yeah.
I know.
Sorry, just something about this film that I just really love. Because as great as Hitchcock is at female characters, a lot of the times there'll just be one, like, lead female character in the film, and I like how, even though the romance between Mitch and Melanie is kind of the core of the film, I love the interplay between her and Lydia and Kathy and Annie, and so the female dynamics are really the most interesting parts of the film. So we've had this brilliant kind of 5-minute scene where they're kind of just talking about kind of, oh, you know, do you really like me, or is it about kind of what's going on? And they've come to this sort of understanding that ends up with Melanie saying, I'll tell you what, I'll go to the school and pick up Kathy. And I just think it's just so well done, and it's really nice to see, because I mean, I know the Bechdel test is a little bit outdated now, and it's something that we should be looking at improving, but for a film from the 60s, and a horror film and a thriller, I think it does pretty well in that regard in giving us fleshed out female characters.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And for those that don't know what the Bechdel test is, it's like a test of, do two women characters converse with each other and not talk about a man?
Yeah, and they have names.
Okay, and Chris, I just wanted to tell you how wrong you are about this song.
Oh my god! Do you know what it is? It's because I watched it enough times over, like, I watched The Birds like 4 times in like a 2-month period once, to the point where I can just hear it in my head, like without...
She combs her hair but once a year.
It's a nightmare soundtrack.
I just hate it. I hate it so much. I rarely...
You're wrong.
I know I'm probably wrong. But, like, I have such a... I don't know what it is, but children in 60s movies annoy me. To the point where, you can look on my Twitter for this, a couple of Christmases ago, some friends of mine on Twitter were honestly concerned and thought it was a cry for help because I said, I really hate the kids in Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. And they said the wrong word then.
I hate those kids too.
They're awful. They're the worst children. Jeremy and Jemima, I would throw them into the propellers of a plane. And yet people, like, two of my mates on Twitter were like, oh, this isn't like you. And I'm like, yes, I know. But here's the thing, I really hate those kids.
So, would you like to come on to my Franchise Fatigue podcast when we cover Children of the Corn?
I've never seen them. I've never seen the Children of the Corn series.
Well, there's 10 of them. There's like 10 of them. So.
Oh my god. Well, the problem is that I have a feeling I'm going to be annoyed because they won't die.
Okay, here we go. Oh, the scene is so well done. The timing of it. Okay, now pay attention if you don't notice this. So every time they cut back to her, after cutting to the birds, the camera's a little closer and a little closer every time. So we see below her knees here, right? So it's like kind of like ratcheting up the tension. Again, no score. Like normally you'd have like this undertone of like fear and ramping you up. So there you go. You got to her waist, right? While these birds are flying in, you'd normally be getting this tension just ramped up. And it's just these kids singing. It's up to her mid-chest area there. Oh, I love it.
Yeah.
And it's almost like she's turning because she thinks she hears something, but, not quite. There we go, just her head, basically.
And it's done so subtly in a way that you don't notice it the first time around. You just kind of go, oh, okay.
I actually never did think about how it was closer and closer each time.
To be fair, the first time I was just listening to this song and going, what is this awful song?
As much as I love it because it's part of the movie that I love,
and then I
think they'd have done better with it. Better song.
Watching that bird fly in, following it in.
And then...
Wow! That is amazing.
That is iconic. That is... Oh...
And this is one of the several scenes of the movie that's like a silent film.
Mm.
And we wish it actually was because of that song.
What? You're wrong. You're so wrong, Pat. Tom, back me up here.
Pat, you're correct.
Oh!
It's 3 against 1, baby!
Listeners, comment on our feed on Twitter at Good Evening Pod.
Now they're like, shut the door. There's birds in the yard.
Oh, I love this bit that comes up where, because basically she says, "Oh, okay, we're gonna show her how we kind of quietly and calmly exit," and then you just focus on the birds, and you.
What a
hear
reasonable
the kids.
response! Calmly show them this is how we're going to do our fire drill. Like, what a reasonable response, you know?
Yeah, and the kids go, "What? Like a fire drill? Like, I'm sorry. Any excuse to get out of school. What nerds are these children? Like, I was a nerd, but I wasn't that bad." I was like, okay, break up the day. But they were like, what? We're not going to sing the song?
Can we take our books with us, please?
Yeah.
So if it was a real fire drill, if it was a real fire, would she really tell them to be quiet and slow while walking out of the building? And when they were safely out of the building, run?
I would love it if she's like, shh, the flames will hear you. Like she's talking about raptors, like, oh, this is it.
And what's so sad about this shot is that because 2 of the birds got up and flew too early, they do a jump cut, which is just too obvious not to notice.
Yeah. See, the reason the birds are chasing them is because they ran too early.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
Every one of those birds is like, "Caw, you missed your cow!"
So in this angle, they're in Bodega, and the reverse angle, they're in Bodega Bay running down a hill.
Well, I think it's rear projection.
Yeah.
There's some of that, too.
They're doing treadmills here, part of it, too, right?
This I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The live action stuff. Caw, caw.
Oh, those bird sounds are really weird. It's interesting. It's like squawking and whatnot. Like, it's good.
One of the earlier uses of a synchronizer or a keyboard.
So if the shower scene in Psycho ruined personal bathing in showers for people in the real world, what would the side effect of this film have had on the general population?
Well, apparently children singing in school.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, like, were people afraid of birds after?
Aviary attendance went way down. Go on, Kathy.
Oh, I
Rescue
think
your friend.
I think every boomer now will say, after this movie, I never walked into a room full of hungry birds and closed the door behind me ever again.
There you go.
They were like, previously, you could walk in there and the crows would be fine and no one would say anything. But no, after that film, we were scared to go in the giant aviary.
Why is she honking?
To scare them away.
To scare them away.
Get off my car. Crazy birds.
Although, ironically, it's probably just making it like a bigger target.
It seems to have worked. Why she didn't honk through the rest of the movie, I don't know.
Honk, honk.
I will say, I am a bit disappointed how her arc goes in the film.
Oh, really?
Yeah, a little bit. I think it's because once she hits a certain point in the way that Melanie ends the film, I kind of wish it was a little bit, not exactly more triumphant, but she had a bit more kind of to her. But I suppose that's the point of the film. The ending is quite ambiguous and it is quite not even bittersweet. It's just it's almost like you're cut off before the ending of finding out what happens to them. So
right. This scene is amazing. I don't know if this is like 10 minutes of them debating these birds, and then this lady comes in. She's like, "I know birds, you lady. Birds don't hurt people."
I secretly want to be her. I am not an ornithologist.
To be Mrs. Bundy?
I would... I would be there. I'd have the little hat. I'd have the coat. I don't smoke. I'd go get cigarettes. And I'd be like... What do you know of birds? And I'd just go to every single diner until it would happen. Eventually, there'd be a bird attack, and I'd be like, yes, the swallows, and whatever. But I just love her. I love this actress, and for me personally, this is the high point of the film, is this scene, even before the attack, because I think it's just it's a great series of character studies. So you get a lot of the great actors who get to come in and have maybe only 7 or 8 lines of dialogue, but they get to kind of flesh out an entire character through their performance.
Yeah.
So I love this. I think it's really interesting.
Well, what else do closeted lesbian octogenarians do but study birds and smoke?
Stare longingly at photos of the girls who, they worked with as GIs back in World War II, and they go, "Oh, Priscilla, if only you had decided to marry a man."
I don't think she's a closeted lesbian. I'm picturing that she's, Mrs. Bundy. She's clearly, look at that face. She's clearly, her grandson was definitely a shoe salesman in the 80s.
Speaking of bird experts.
Oh, that's just, so I gotta finish that. I can't just leave that. So, Mr. Bundy from Married with Kids.
Oh, that's what you mean.
I did not get the reference. I was just running with it. I was like, okay,
terrible joke. She looks like the guy.
I have a cousin who lives in British Columbia who is a bird biologist, and his job is he goes out in the woods and counts birds. And I approached him on Facebook and asked him his opinion of the film. He referred to his co-worker's opinion, calling it Hitchcock's worst movie ever. There's very little substance in terms of bird behavior, and the movie is essentially about a town where people are randomly attacked by birds, with no context and no explanation. An expression of human fear more than exploring bird behavior. So that's my dedication to legitimate, real-world scientific research for the sake of our podcast.
This is the movie he was making. He wasn't making a movie about the secret life of birds.
Yeah, it's an entertainment film.
How many crows? How many gulls? I love her. I love her so much. I'm like, can we just be friends? I don't like that you smoke, and we'll talk about it. But like, I love it. I love that. That is such a like. Could you get them to lower their voices? The scary children. I'm like, lady, in 10 minutes, that is going to be the least of your worries.
Is that mum's name Karen?
Well, I was going to say, she's kind of the right age for a Karen. If she was any younger, she'd be a Becky, and if she was any older, she'd be a Susan. So...
You've just dated this podcast.
I mean, we've already mentioned, like, coronavirus and everything, so we've already... I mean, some will listen to the show and say it's dated, but not in the way that we think.
Yeah, if we really want to date it, yesterday Kanye West announced his presidency.
So, either it's going to be Joe Biden, which, okay, kind of creep. Donald Trump, which, yikes on that. And then Kanye West, who thinks that slavery was maybe a choice. So
no, the choice was marrying someone whose last name was Kardashian. The choice was not naming your son Northwest.
He's a Hitchcock fan. He named his son Northwest.
Do you know the worst thing? I thought North was a girl.
Maybe it is.
Here's our drunk driver guy. He's like, follow me after I drink this large drink.
Okay, so my age makes me say this. This room is packed with character actors from millions of other movies.
Oh, yeah.
That guy there is Charles McGraw, who was in Spartacus and had his... He was the one that Kirk Douglas pushed into the soup when the slave revolt began. Ethel Griffiths had been in a million things.
I keep telling you, this isn't a few birds. These are gulls, crows, swifts.
I have never known birds of different species to flock together.
And I'm getting drawn into this dialogue.
Mm-hmm.
It's a
Such a great
great,
scene.
like, almost monologue she has.
And Doreen Lang here was in two other Hitchcock movies, The Wrong Man and North by Northwest. In North by Northwest, she was his secretary at the very beginning of the film, walking along with him in New York.
The mum?
Yeah, her, Doreen Lang. And that guy...
Was this before or after North by Northwest? This is before.
This is
wasn't
after.
it? This is after?
Yeah.
Okay.
This is film number 50.
Is it?
No, Torn Curtain.
No.
This is number 48.
Okay.
I love it every time we're like, is this film 50? You're like, no, it's 48, keep up.
No, I'm just saying that like that because I just saw the famous picture of him stacking all of the films to his right, and the Torn Curtain was at the top for his 50th anniversary. That guy, the cook, this may not mean things to Canadians or Britishers, but he was the speaking voice of Archie in the Archie's cartoons in the 70s.
Oh, wow.
That's cool.
Cool.
Sugar. Dun, 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 dun.
No, that's the singing voice. That's Ron Dante. I'm sorry, I'm an Archie nerd. And that guy, the drunk, I see him constantly in 60s TV shows.
I didn't realize that Sugar Sugar by the Archies was like a legit thing for the Archie comic characters. I didn't know that.
I didn't until they did it on Riverdale.
That's a whole other podcast.
Do you know, I was going to ask, I was like, Pat, as a self-confessed Archie nerd, what do you think of Riverdale? And you're just like, it needs a podcast.
This film actually has a Betty and a Veronica in it, but we digress.
I'm an Archie's nerd, meaning the music and the cartoon, but I didn't get into the comic books so much.
I watched half an episode of Riverdale and gave up.
Look at all the liquor. There's liquor.
Look at all that booze.
Liquor everywhere.
You liquor. Sorry. Edit that out.
No, that's going to be the title of the show.
Too late.
Now, do you think that the Bird War would have been a better name for this movie?
The which?
Bird War.
The Bird War?
Yes,
that would have been
Bird War, Bird Attack. Call it what you like. They're massing out there somewhere, and they'll be back. You can count on them.
Okay, we're about to come up on the other part that I don't like, so I'll just give you guys a heads up that I'll be probably interrupting at one point here.
Which is?
Oh, it's still a little ways away.
Oh. Well, we're coming on my favorite line from any movie.
Make your own fog?
Ready for it?
Look!
Oh.
No, it's coming up, and
this scene is amazing. This whole scene is amazing.
Yeah.
Except for one part. So I was explaining things to this, because Aubrey's like 8, right, when we were watching this, and I'm like, so just so you know, Aubrey, gasoline's very flammable, right, because I try and not let my kids know what they can strike a match to, so. Anyway, so as we get to it, so it's when they do the quick cutting of the fire.
Look at the gas, that man's lighting a cigar. That's my favorite line.
Don't drop that.
Okay, so I'll count 1, 2, 3, and these are the parts that I don't like. So, and we studied and studied and studied it, and my teacher loved it so much.
Ding.
1,
Ding.
2,
Oh yes.
3, 4. I don't like that. He thinks it's wonderful. It's studied, and people think it's great. I don't. I think it's just weird.
If there's a gas station exploding, are you running to the scene? Or are you running the other? I'm running away, personally.
This is an amazing.
It's the
oil
shot.
painting, yeah.
It's part
Overhead.
real, part matte painting, and rotoscoped birds.
Yeah. So, anyways, Pat, what do you think? Do you like that or no?
I'm sorry. Do I like what?
The 1, 2, 3, 4 of her.
I do. I have.
You do like that?
When I was a kid, I would laugh at it.
Mm-hmm.
But it's turned into one of those things that I love because it's just so, I don't know, old school, stuck in a modern movie.
He just blew that stop sign.
They told her during the production that there was safety glass in the phone booth, and then the bird strikes the glass and it shatters and it breaks and real glass, and she spent the day having people picking shards of glass out of her face because they screwed up on this scene. That was one of her complaints about her treatment as an actor on the film.
As
so
she
right
should.
about
Another
right
moment
when
like
the
that for me is in Rear Window, when at the end when people are running out of their apartments and they're all in fast motion.
Yes. Yeah, that's a bit of a weird one.
I love that. I don't laugh at it at all. I think it's brilliant. I don't know why I think it's brilliant, but it's brilliant.
I mean, for me, Rear Window is my favourite drama film, so even that I'm like, okay.
Right
I
there.
love it, so... Oh, my gosh.
See, it's easy to get out of you.
The claustrophobia being surrounded by the birds, the claustrophobia being stuck in a payphone. Payphones in general are gross and horrible and hot and germy.
Definitely COVID in that payphone.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is the pan of the liquor bottles.
Mm-hmm. And the quiet, everybody's just in there, hiding and whatnot, and just sitting there. Oh, such a great shot, too.
Oh, this moment with the mother, who deserves what she gets. I'm sorry, she does. I have no time for hysterical people. Not in movies. In real life, yeah, but in movies...
Why are they doing this?
If anybody remembers our original theme song for the podcast, I used that quote.
I heard that.
Yeah.
I remember that.
I'll have to go back in this.
Oh, it's not there anymore. I replaced them all with our wonderful theme from Jason Cullimore.
Cause of all this.
I mean, God, that shot's incredible.
Evil.
Well, we've already determined it's because of her outfit,
Yes.
which I love.
I think they're going.
We can get Kathy at any time.
Now I wonder if they'll believe it's an attack.
You know, an industrious restaurateur would take advantage of all this freshly fallen bird meat and open his freezer and harvest the bounty.
I love the idea of the minute it all leaves, the cook just starts kind of shoveling gull corpses.
Fried chicken all week long.
It's like, I can make some wings. I can make some wings. Out of all these gull corpses, I can make some wings.
This week's special, Gull Taco.
There's a funny story about how the cameraman, I think, or the set designer, someone, I'm embarrassed, but had the idea of putting little magnets on their feet to keep them on the jungle gym and the other, and the grating on the house, the drain.
Yeah.
And what happened was they were magnified, but they fell over, and so they were hanging upside down.
That doesn't help.
No. This is a sad.
Very
Sorry if I spoiled that for anybody. She's dead.
Yeah, sorry for about half an hour ago, but it was like, you know what? She dies. She's dead.
Geez, Veronica Cartwright's always just crying in movies. She's just bawling her eyes out in Alien.
I mean, she cries very well.
Children's Hour. And she cries or she throws up. She throws up in this, and she throws up in the Witch's V-Stick.
Oh my God! Yes, she's the cherry pit woman. Oh, I hate that scene. Sorry,
I hate the movie. No. I haven't seen it since it came out.
Oh, I can't do with anything kind of puking in film. I really can't. It honestly affects me. So when I saw that, oh no, thank you.
Okay, I'm just getting ready to send you a bunch of GIFs in the messenger there, Chris.
If you dare, I swear to God.
Here's something evil.
I'm going to pay postage so I can ship you a turd. I don't care. I'm really poor at the moment because of COVID, but I will muster up the money to be like, here you go, Brandon. I'm serious. I hate
Chris sent a pie.
It so much. Yeah.
Okay,
well,
so Mitch
helps it in the news. Yeah.
Mitch put his coat over her body, which is the gentlemanly thing to do before 1970.
Yeah.
And then
she says, "Come across a corpse in the street."
And then she says, "Don't leave her there."
Knew her.
So he picks her up and carries her inside. At this point, right here, I want him to go, "Oh," and run back in, and get his jacket, and come out again.
Yeah.
Which is very bad murder scene management. You never move the corpse.
No.
Because now
everyone knows that if you move the body to a secondary crime scene, it's much harder to kind of like solve the crime.
And he'll be like, "A bunch of birds killed her. It wasn't me."
I know how to get rid of the birds. 1 stone.
Yeah.
Or maybe we just missed it when he's about to throw a stone at them.
So, Pat, have you seen The Birds 2, Land's End?
No. Not because I don't want to. I just never got around to it.
How would Tarantino have solved the bird problem?
He would have shown their feet.
Flamethrower, right?
Flamethrower. Birds 2 is just atrocious. I saw it once and burned my own brain so that I would never remember it.
Okay, Pat, you're a trivia hound. Rod Taylor in Glorious Bastards, the Tarantino film. What character did he play?
I have no idea. I've never seen it.
Winston Churchill.
Oh.
Really?
Yeah.
That's cool.
So he had quite a good career, quite a long career. A lot of different movies.
Okay, now they gotta block it all up.
Yeah, we're in like the last act of the film, really.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if I may, because when it happens, we'll be saying goodbye and stuff to each other. The ending, you probably know this, was supposed to go much further. They were supposed to have another attack on their car as they were driving away.
Oh, I did not know that.
And it ended because eventually their car was faster than the birds. But it started that the birds outran them. Because you know the twisty-turny road that she drives to get there? Mm-hmm. They're taking the same one out. And there was supposed to have been an overhead shot of them twisting and turning, but the birds going straight line and catching up to them. That would have been so awesome.
It would have. I would have also really liked to see the scene of the birds following the twists of the road. I'd be really confused. And just like they're going like, "Yeah, we're gonna catch you," and then mirroring the shot of them in the thing, like the heads just tilt a bit, and they just go like, "You can't see it. I'm not on camera. Damn it!" I'm there like, "Ugh," and then left and then right. No, I mean that's good. I mean, what I do appreciate in the way the film is set out in that you kind of have our four main characters. I know Melanie's our lead and Mitch is our hero, but each of the characters has been affected by a separate attack, which I think is quite interesting. So you've had Lydia, who has been affected by I forgot his name, the eyeless guy.
Dan Fawcett,
went to him, and it was entirely from Lydia's perspective. You've had Kathy attacked twice, actually. Once at the birthday party, and then once at the school. And then you've had both Mitch and Melanie. Then it was their attack at the cafe, at the diner. So each of them has been affected by it, and I think it's an interesting way to set it up in terms of they've each got a bit of a stake in this. They've each been, attacked and affected, and here's how their characters are going to play out across this final sort of 20-ish minutes. And we'll see how the characters develop, because the only thing that stops this from being like a top 5 Hitch movie for me, because I do love it, is I hate the way that Melanie's character ends. And she doesn't die, but she just sort of becomes quite helpless, and I don't... because it's built her up, and she started off as this really kind of strong, vivacious character, and she was shown to be quite an active agent in kind of like, well, she's helping rescue people, she's doing this, doing that, and it's a bit of a descent, and I understand why they did it, and it's a downward arc, but it is a bit of a shame for me personally, but I understand why they did it.
I understand that point of view. It doesn't bother me, but I can totally understand why that would bother you for sure, yeah.
I think it's because they've set her up as this kind of, okay, she's her. I thought they were going to maybe set it up that she rescues Mitch, or she rescues Kathy, or maybe even it's like a resolution to her and Lydia's relationship in that she rescues Lydia during an attack in the last thing, and then that kind of helps sort of cement their relationship. But it doesn't happen, really, unfortunately.
Well, something I learned while studying up for this podcast that I'd never known before is because I, like many people, have always had a problem with her going to the attic in the first place, and then when she's in it, like closing the door behind her. But what was supposed to come across is that she was doing that to protect the rest of the family. It doesn't come across well, but that was the reason.
No. So she thought that she was the cause of it all, and so she was kind of like self-isolating herself.
Yeah. I mean, she's about to wake Mitch up to go up and investigate, but she decides to do it herself, because she thinks that she can do everything herself.
She's an asymptomatic bird carrier.
Well, I was going to say, like, if you're if you believe you may be the cause, please self-isolate.
And look at Lydia trying to... feebly trying to regain control of her house and things.
Well, she has, because, like, if you look behind... And I think it's funny, the way Mitch is framed directly beneath his father's picture.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like, almost directly down as well. And the picture's back in its right order, and so it's kind of... She is trying to keep the control that she lost kind of partway through the film.
That reminds me, I've been meaning to have an oil painting portrait of myself hung over my piano. I'm going to have to get to that later in the month.
We've all been there.
Yes. Are you going to get it like Kramer in the suit there, or like Tony Soprano in the horse?
Simpsonified.
Oh, well, this isn't a plug, I'm not getting sponsored, but there's a website called Masterpiece Me, where you can get your face done as a variety of, like you can be a duke, or you can be a queen, or you can be a like anything, and it costs about, I think, $30 to do, and they do it on like a canvas thing. It honestly looks amazing. So if you're considering it, yeah, you can. They definitely ship worldwide, because I nearly was like, do I do it? Do I stop it?
You're making her sick.
Not that I could improve on this, but
I was like, calm down, Veronica Cartwright. It's fine.
It's a joke. I'm not really. Anyway, Kathy's coughing.
Another movie that I thought would be good as like a double header or triple header with the happening in this would be Frank Darabont's The Mist.
I don't know that one.
Oh, God. Yeah. Not because it's bad, but it's just... Wow. I mean, out of the three you would put together for, like, this sort of triple feature, it's weird, and I'm thinking, my God, The Birds would be, like, the happy one? Because it doesn't end in complete misery and despair. Like, we've had this conversation before about The Happening, where you quite enjoy it, and I...
Love it. 5
stars.
stars.
Yeah. I personally think it's my least... favourite film of all time. I know it's because there's just certain parts of it that I truly hate to my core, and I can't change that. I'm happy.
Well,
for
Mark
you,
Wahlberg's not a very good actor.
Well, it's the fact it has a great premise that isn't utilised. I would say, and none of the characters either feel like they're in the right roles or if they have any chemistry. Because in no way it's like they rolled dice and went, okay, so the male lead's going to be Mark Wahlberg and his wife's going to be Zooey Deschanel. Like it makes no sense. I'm sorry, I cannot believe Marky Mark as a science teacher. I can't.
Mm-hmm.
Oh. There we go. I love that he just sort of wrestles with one.
I love this. That shot there of them trying to break through the door.
Yeah.
And he the zoom in on it, with the moving camera.
This is
Dolly shot.
This is Night of the Living Dead. This is so cool.
Yes. Another of my favorite movies.
Night of the Living Birds.
So have you guys come up with any personal headcanon explanations as for why the birds do this? Anything you've done on your own?
Well, I've given you mine.
It's the whole fried chicken thing. They're mad at the Colonel.
Okay, yeah, fair enough. Chris?
Well, ironically, I would argue something similar to The Happening, in the sense of maybe some kind of biological agent, like some kind of chemical that causes aggression. Because if it's isolated to Bodega Bay, it could be something in the water, it could be something in, not exactly the seed, but in something that they're all ingesting that's just causing this adverse aggressive reaction. But I don't know. I think you guys said it best at the beginning, in that when we have an explanation it turns into sci-fi, and I don't really want an explanation.
You, Tom?
Well, a quick quote from the master Hitchcock himself. He just talks about man takes nature for granted. That makes man complacent. He thinks he's the master of everything. We put birds in cages as nice things to be kept. But taking nature for granted can turn into trouble. That was from an interview with Hitchcock of the day.
Man is the master of nothing, but Hitchcock is the master of suspense.
There you go. There's a funny story that Rod had, too, where he said there was a bird, I think it was a raven on the set named Archie, that would attack Rod any chance he had. Like, the bird wouldn't even be working on a scene that day, and the bird would find him in the studio and bite him. and to the point that they had to take the bird out of the scenes because he wouldn't leave Rod alone. Like, this bird just had it in for him.
You see Archie later when he's out on the porch in the moonlight, and he puts his hand down, and the bird attacks it.
Is that what it was? Good.
Yeah.
So, yeah, they trained that Archie really well to hate Rod. He had his moment.
And after every attack, he would start to sing "Sugar." Dun, dun, dun,
But that just reminded me of Inspector Clouseau and Kato. Like, not now, Kato!
Okay, a moment that I love that's pure electronic soundtrack happened a minute ago when the lights went out and you hear one bird go, so you know
These
that
shots here.
some bird got fried on the power line. Now look
These
at this. Look at
undershots
this.
are so
This is
good.
so beautiful.
Yeah.
That is beautiful. That is gorgeous.
You know, it occurred to me, Hitchcock in Shadow of a Doubt, Strangers on a Train, and others, but mostly those two, really concentrated on pairs of people and pairs of things. But in this movie, it's threes. You've got the love triangle, and then you've got that shot with the three of them, and beautiful symmetry in other shots when it's just three people.
Yeah, you've got the three Brenners.
And the staring at the ceiling is even a tribute way back in the day to The Lodger, when you think about it. Looking up at the ceiling and imagining what's happening above us in the room above us. Ceilings don't get a lot of camera time normally, right? So
No. Maybe I should do a mash of those scenes.
ceiling montage.
This is a total sidebar, just because just the way that Tippi Hedren's acting right now. I would have loved to have seen her do The Exorcist as the mum. I would have loved to see what she would have done with that. It just reminded me. It reminds me a lot of oh God, what's her name? Ellen
DeGeneres?
Burstyn. Yeah, because I didn't realise until looking into that film again. Total sidebar, that Audrey Hepburn was really in talks and could have been the mum, except she wanted to shoot it in Rome because that's where she was living, and they said no, it's American. So,
well, I would have bought that casting better than the famous Doris Day as Mrs. Robinson. She was asked.
I didn't know that. No.
Yeah. And wisely she said no.
Don't go up the stairs.
Oh,
Don't do it.
that is psycho. That is
Every slasher,
Arbogast
every
going
slasher
upstairs.
film. Get out of the cabin. Don't go in the house. Don't go in the basement. Get in the car and drive away. Stop going up the stairs.
What you doing, bitch?
Get out of the house.
So one of the stories that she loves to tell, not that it's wrong that she loves to tell it, is that they didn't tell her that they were going to use real birds until the first day of shooting this scene.
And that was her question when she first read the script was, how does this scene happen? It's all mechanical birds. Okay, I'm comfortable with that.
See, she doesn't close the door on purpose. Like, she falls against it in shock, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, so she goes up to protect her, and then she ends up accidentally isolating herself and cutting herself off because she is trying to.
That's the poster shot right here of her with her arms in the air. That's the poster image that's on Pat's t-shirt.
Yeah.
So now, you probably know this, but in this, the birds are not... They're not making any vocal noise. You just hear wings beating.
Yeah.
Because they've got her where they want her. They don't want to wake up the other people in the house for her to be rescued. Also,
Damn birds.
it's silent for another reason. Remember how he wanted to have the shower scene be silent? But then once Bernard Herrmann came up with that incredible music, Hitch was like, oh, well, we have to use the music. But here, he gets to do the whole movie without music.
Yeah. No, I completely agree. I mean, this is so reminiscent of even the way it's edited and cut. Kind of each bird bite is sort of like a knife strike. So it's a bit gratuitous, maybe, but I think it works really well. It also reminded me of, I watched this for the first time in uni, so nearly 10 years ago now, and I watched it with a group of friends, and a mate of mine turned to me and she just went, "I'll tell you now, there's a reason why there's no black people in this film." And I went, "Why?" And she's black. And she went, "I'll tell you now." The minute we heard of something like that going down, we'd run.
And then she's blocked in the way here, right? She's blocked
Yeah.
in front of the door.
Yeah.
So it's tough to get her out.
Well, that's it, yeah. She's kind of like a draft excluded. She's just blocking her own way out there.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, but isn't that stuff like how her shoes get caught on the way out?
Yeah.
Listen, get some water, bandages, and have a sense.
And listen at how the relationships immediately change. She's like, "Oh, poor thing, poor thing."
Yeah, some bandages. Yeah, she needs bandages. She needs an ER.
Brandy. Get her some brandy.
Yeah.
Kathy, get some brandy. But don't drink any. You're a child.
Yeah.
And now go get me a hamburger. Yeah.
Oh, that's too when she wakes up and she doesn't realize where she is yet. That's awesome.
Yeah. Kathy, get me some brandy. You can have a sip yourself, but you'll save the rest.
Pour it on the open wounds.
Shooting the scene gave her a nervous breakdown, and she was offset for a week. And they worked around it with shots like this, and any shot where you don't actually see her. They were acting without her.
Oh yeah, isn't the when he carries her out to the car? That's not Tippy, is it?
Yeah, it's her body double.
Yeah.
Did she do many films after this?
Well, she did. What else did she do with him? She did.
Marnie.
I want to say Marnie.
And they had their falling out because he was a jerk, and well, she finally just couldn't she couldn't deal with him stalking her and staring at her, and so she rejected him. And then forever after, he called her the girl, and he kept her contract. He kept her under contract, but wouldn't lend her out to anybody, which was a schmucky thing to do.
Yeah. That's not nice.
By the time the contract was up, people had forgotten about her, and she was kind of a joke.
Oh, I'm looking through her filmography here, and she was doing stuff as recently as 2015.
Oh, that's good.
As well, so...
Here we go with this beautiful, beautiful composite shot.
32 separate exposures. People have called it the most complex shot of Hitchcock's film career. There's only a small group of birds used for this big shot, and it's just layered and layered to make it look like 1,000 birds.
I'd be like, man, don't.
And then
I love the sound of them here. That sound of that.
If only he had a box of French fries.
Look at that. That's gorgeous. Here's Archie.
Dun, 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 dun,
Archie.
dun.
I bit his finger.
Archie just got paid right there. That was his year's work. My dog would go crazy. He'd be barking and chasing them.
Cash.
Get a bird, Cash.
I thought you were going to say Archie was that seagull that bit his leg.
So he's trying to get the sports car out to go to the hospital.
Yeah. Because it's faster than the truck, is what he says. But he's not thinking about the fact that the truck has a real roof.
Yeah.
And the truck would plow through them birds.
But they couldn't have fit all of them in the truck, though, could they?
That's true, also.
Well, they just wanted to get her to the hospital, like.
They probably could, because they would have just, like... They could probably put 3 on and then stuck Kathy on Lydia's lap or something.
Yeah, I was going to say, in the truck.
Like, I'm not being funny, you'd make it work. You know, you could have Lydia strapped to the sides of on the beds of the truck or something, and it'd be fine.
Mm-hmm.
Most of what was cut from the script or from the first cut had to do with how the bird attacks were affecting other people.
Right.
Okay. In the story?
Yeah. Like, after the Tide's restaurant scene and before they find Danny, they had gone through the town viewing the destruction of other people and other homes. And the ending, as I told you before, was supposed to continue and possibly even go to San Francisco, where there would be birds covering the Golden Gate Bridge.
Oh.
But Hitch decided, first of all, the audience has had enough at this point. And second of all, he wanted to keep it to those people.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, it's a better story. You don't need... Who cares about all those other people?
It's not really... Because at this stage, it's a disaster movie, isn't it? And if you haven't established it by now, then...
That's true.
Yeah. It makes more sense to kind of keep it as a... Yeah? Pre-airport, pre-Independence Day, 2012, all that kind of stuff.
God. I just got the Blu-ray of Earthquake. What a laugh riot.
What was it? I just watched one on Netflix that's basically Sylvester Stallone, and it's not really a disaster movie, except it kind of is.
Any film with Stallone is a disaster.
Well, it's basically, I can't remember the name of it, but it's basically about like the Holland Tunnel collapses or something, and so basically...
Oh, is that Daylight?
Daylight, that's it!
Yeah.
I watched it on Netflix, and I was like, oh, okay, this is sort of not very good, but I also watched it all, because I'm like, it's a bit like a really crap Poseidon adventure, and I'm like, I can live with this. It's fine. Oh god, just the complete shell shock in her face.
Probably my favorite shot of the movie, both for picture and sound, is the door opening right here. Although you don't actually see the door.
There's no door involved. It was all miming.
Half the times people close doors in Hitchcock movies, they're pretending.
Oh.
I love that shot.
Wow.
With the sun coming through the clouds and...
Maybe a bit of hope, but...
She's like, I don't want to go.
No.
No. It's all right.
A Porsche. Is that a Porsche?
Where's Archie?
This is like the end of Notorious when they're going down the stairs.
Oh, nice call, yeah.
Good catch.
Discovered that.
Very good reference.
Did they make the wrong call? Did Mitch make the wrong call in letting her bring the lovebirds? The sequel we should have got is when the lovebirds attack them in the car.
It's like the lovebirds are kind of the only good birds, and then they grow up strong, and then they start getting revenge, and it's like Independence Day resurgence.
The lovebirds are like Dr. Evil, and they're running the whole thing.
Da, 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 da.
And then they could get Nazareth to do the song. Lovebirds hurt.
1 million seagulls.
Oh my god, there's that new Lady Gaga song called 1,000 Doves. That's perfect.
Okay, what would the Prince song on the soundtrack have been? Anybody?
When Doves Cry.
There you go.
Yeah.
Wow, what a film, eh?
Yeah.
Yeah. We're coming up to the last shots here. You know, as I was younger, I always found this to be like a letdown of an ending because it just ends so suddenly, you know. But I think I've come to appreciate it a bit more as I get older.
Mm-hmm.
The film always doesn't always have to end on the screen. The film can continue in your imagination. You can put your own ending on a film, right?
Mm-hmm. And it feels as though they cut it at the right place.
Yeah. We come back, they've taken over the town, and they're just like birds living there. You know, they're farmer birds and like mechanic birds, and they just have a whole bird village.
There's one bird there with the cook's hat on.
Universal.
Excellent. There we go. Universal release.
That's there in place of the end, because he didn't want to put the end, but Universal didn't want people thinking, well, did the projector break?
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Excellent. This has been great.
Thanks, Pat.
Oh, Pat, thanks for joining us. This has been a lot of fun.
You always bring a lot to the show when we have you in.
We love doing our commentaries. I think we'll make it an annual thing. Every summer we'll do one. So,
yeah, love it.
You know, I think it'll be a good time.
You can find me at Alfred Hitchcock Geek on Facebook.
Tom, where can people find you when you're not running away from the birds?
Tom Caldwell 3000 on the Twitter, which can't be any better connection. Twitters, birds, all that.
Tweet.
Twitter, tweet.
Chris, where can people find you when you're not drinking brandy?
When I'm not busy drinking brandy and crying about lovebirds, you can find me on Twitter at @higher_boy.
You can find me on Twitter at Brandon-Shea. You can find me over on the Nerd Party Network with a short-run show right now. It's called House of Fincher. Finch, even more birds.
Yeah.
We go over all of David Fincher's films in the same manner that we do here on this show. It's truly a fan-run love podcast. We just love David Fincher a lot. As much as I love Fincher, or as much as I love Hitchcock, Fincher's my definite favorite director. So, and then you can find me over on Franchise Fatigue on the United Federation of Podcasts with my friend Zach. We have a show devoted to movies, remakes, and sequels. We'll never do The Birds, however, because we determined that we need a minimum of at least 3 films. Could be a movie, a sequel, and a remake, or 3 movies, but it's got to be a minimum of 3. And then I'm also starting a new podcast on the UFP called Infinite Diversity, which is devoted to all new Star Trek with my friends Justin and Chrissy. Thank you so much to the Fandom Podcast Network for hosting our show. Thank you so much to Jason Cullimore for our wonderful theme music. If you could please give us a rating and review on iTunes, we would love it. Share us on Twitter, share us on Facebook. That's how we get known out there. That's how we get popular. That's how people download us and find us. And also, don't forget to check out Annie and Catherine's show, Good Evening, an Alfred Hitchcock Presents podcast, where they cover all the episodes from that show. Well, now, definitely next time, we're doing. What movie? I forget the name of it now. The one with Gregory Peck that we were supposed to do this time. Parodying Case. That's there we go. Excellent. But until then, good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.